don't know. It just sparks optimism in fans, I think,
And
even if that might not be realistic.
Cas did get to the final last year, and they do have a coach now who has won the Challenge Cup twice in the last sort of 5 run-ins of the competition. So, that's maybe where the optimism comes from. They're not in the list of the favourites with the bookies. When we put up our shortlist, we only named, I think, the 6 clubs that the bookies had as their favourites, and Castleford fell outside of that. So we'll see. We'll see with that. And Leeds certainly weren't the favourites. That's St Helens with the bookies, but with the fans, it seems to be Leeds. Let's move on to the grand final winner. Again, let's start with our picks. This time, just to sort of save the hassle, we'll come to you first, David.
Fair enough. So not surprisingly, I've picked my own side again to succeed in the grand final, which would make it, I think, a quadrupeat. And if we win the Challenge Cup as well, that'd be a double-double. And I also picked us to finish top of the league, so it would be a treble. So that would be quite a year. In fact, if I could, Mark, I'd have picked us to win the Championship, League One, and the Eurovision Song Contest this year as well.
Well, do you know what? I've gone the same way as you've gone.
Oh no, I saw that. I was most surprised.
Yeah, it's hard to look past the side that I've won the competition 3 times in a row. Some of those times from second as well in the league, so they've done it a couple of different ways. There's been a bit of a turnover. We'll talk a bit more about that, I guess, in the team by team stuff. But basically, 2 young stars now get the chance to be permanent first team fixtures, and outside of that, everyone's been adequately replaced. So it's not a major turnover, and you are miserable. And to win a league season, you do need to be consistently miserable enough that other teams don't score against you. And, I've supported a team that's done that in the past, and your team certainly did it last year. So I think in the long haul, they're going to finish in that top 2 or 3 places in the league, and then that gives them a great platform in the playoffs. There's one caveat I would say is St Helens won't win if Alex Walmsley misses the second half of the season, because he is by far and away for me the biggest single difference maker of any player in our competition. There's other players who are very integral to their side, don't get me wrong, but there is no other player like Alex Walmsley. You cannot bring someone in to fill that space, I don't think. And so if he were to get injured in the second half of the season, Saints don't win it. But assuming, I'm not wanting him to, because I want him to play in the World Cup, assuming he doesn't, Saints win the league for me.
Yeah, I don't think that's unfair. I think all sides are prone to bad injuries coming along, either in quantity or quality. So Saints are vulnerable to. We were vulnerable to Roby being injured in the last few years. I think Lussig's a reasonable backup for him now. We are very exposed to Alex going down. We're not too badly off in the forward department, but Alex is, as he showed last year, an absolutely outstanding prop forward and takes so much energy out of the opposition.
Exactly. Alan, you've gone somewhere else, have you, than me and David?
Yes, and I did start from the point of view of I'm not going to pick Saints to win, just for a bit of variety. I've gone for the version of you've got to lose one to win one. So I've gone for Catalan to get over the hump this year.
Tell Warrington fans that. Got to lose 4 to win one, guys.
Yeah, but only a madman would pick Warrington. I do. I think it's too early for Wigan. I think Wigan are in a rebuilding, kind of redefining phase particularly in terms of coaching and kind of structures. So I think it's going to be a little bit early for them. Can't see Leeds being consistent enough. Warrington, enough said. Can't pick Saints. So Catalan with the team that I was left with. So it wasn't with a great deal of confidence, but to be honest, I'd quite like him to win it. So I went for Catalan.
Well, you're in good company because Sarah went for Catalans as well. So there you go. I think probably for many of the same reasons as much wanting someone other than St Helens to win it, and they're the best placed.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in terms of what the overall SLP population voted, third most popular choice was Warrington with 10%. Interesting side note on that: every single Warrington fan that voted picked Warrington to win the grand final. Overall, 42% of fans picked their own side to win the grand final, but 100% of Warrington fans that voted
living up to the song.
Oh, yeah, just like the last one. Anyway, 33. It was a two-horse race between the two sides between the four of us we picked. 33% of people think Catalans will win the grand final this year, and 37% think St Helens will win a fourth title in a row, making them second only to Wigan's 1990s team in terms of consecutive top division titles in rugby league in this country. All the teams apart from Salford, Toulouse and Wakefield were picked at least once by at least one person to win the grand final, so there was a bit of variation and slight nonsense in some of the picking, but not too much nonsense, as the three teams that are definitely everyone's favourite to be battling out at the bottom, as we'll talk about a bit later on, didn't get any picks. Okay, interesting category now. The Man of Steel, the Steve Prescott Man of Steel winner. Just to sort of set the scene, 28 different players got picks in this by people out there. We'll talk about some of the nonsense picks in a little while after we've picked the headline acts. David, who did you go for in this? Who's going to be the most important player in St Helens winning everything, according to you?
Well, I actually picked Jack Wellesby, not because I think he's the most important player, because I think Alex is, as you rightly say, Mark. I actually picked Jack because I think he's one of those guys that does stand out. He'll be involved in more of our try scoring, and he'll stand out from the crowd. In truth, I think the way the Man of Steel works doesn't favour teams like Saints or Catalan, and in that there are so many good players in the sides that very often, even if you've been terrific, there's somebody else who's going to play better than you that week. I think the way the Man of Steel works, it favours a really good player in a really mediocre or a middle of the road team.
And you say this with the team that finished top of the league last season having a player who won Man of Steel.
Yeah. It went against the trend in my view, but there you go.
Yeah, well, Jack Wellesby, he's one of the top picks for the bookies to go and win the Man of Steel, and is certainly, he was Young Player of the Year last year, wasn't he? 2 times SLP Young Player of the Year as well. So we know what we're talking about. Sarah's gone with Jack Wellesby as well, actually, incidentally there. And he is a popular guy across the board. Alan, who have you gone for Man of Steel?
So, following a very similar logic, actually, but that's why I couldn't pick a Saints player, because I do think they kind of slightly cancel each other out in the nicest possible way. So I've gone for George Williams because he's kind of, I don't know, I do think sometimes Man of Steel is all about the narrative and about certain players have a narrative. And I do think that his kind of return and first full season back, blah, 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 kind of, and I think he will probably stand head and shoulders above his kind of peers at Warrington, I would say. So, yeah, I would count on him to get points every week, to be honest, even if it's just 1 point if Warrington aren't brilliant. So, yeah, I've gone for George Williams to pick it up.
Well, he made the shortlist of the final 5 in his last full season in Super League, didn't he? So, certainly a sensible pick. Talking about narratives, last year I kind of went narrative driven and went with John Bateman as a returning player to Super League and world class performer, showed up those levels of performance in the NRL like not a lot of English players have done. I think George Williams, to be perfectly honest, did that quite a bit as well at Canberra. So I went with that. So that fell flat on its face. He didn't have his best year by any stretch. Hopefully he'll be spurred on this year to have a better year. But I don't know if it'll put the mockers on this man by doing a similar pick. But I've gone for not necessarily the man who I think will be Man of Steel, but the man who, if the season goes how I expect it to, should be Man of Steel. And that's Alex Walmsley. I've already talked about him, so I won't go into too much detail about it. But he is so imposing. His performances are so magnificent at times, especially last year, especially in the last half of last year, that it just he was so important, and how he wasn't picking up more Man of Steel points is stupid, because Jack Welsby can only really do what he can do, and Lomax and Dodd and Roby, only can really do all of what they do, with a little bit of Makinson and Percival running their asses off on the first 2 tackles. But really, it's Alex Walmsley having 2 tackles every set and making 40 metres each, 40 metres regularly in a set. So yeah, that's why I've gone Walmsley. I wasn't the only person to no, maybe I was the only person to go Alex Walmsley. You guys weren't the only ones to go Jack Welsby, though, David and Sarah, because Jack got 11% of picks, so he was the 3rd most popular. George Williams was the 2nd most popular, 14% of picks. But it's an Aussie coming in from the NRL, Mitchell Pearce, taking over from James Maloney, really, at Catalans as their key halfback. He got 19% of the picks, so he's the most popular in the predictions to win the Man of Steel. But like I said before, 28 players got picks. In addition to those guys we've already mentioned in that top 3, Cade Cust, Bevan French, Aidan Caesar, Morgan Knowles, Jake Truman and Jordan Abdul, they all got multiple picks, although Jordan Abdul ones were spoof Hull KR ones, so don't mean anything. Some of the more far out picks that were mentioned, I mean, a centre hasn't won it since Jamie Lyon, has he? Have they? I can't think of one that has, off the top of my head. And he was exceptional. So Josh Griffin, Toby King, Jake Mamo, Matthew Laguerre. Don't think they're going to be in as much of a chance as some people have predicted them to be. Will Price got a vote. If Huddersfield do as well as I'm hoping they might do, then you never know. And Greg Eden get a comedy vote in there as well, because I think Greg Eden should play for Cass every week. I don't know what you guys think, but is not in the right mould for their new coach, is he?
I wouldn't have thought so. Will Price is a good shout for Young Player of the Year, isn't he?
Yes, especially a full season in his preferred position looks like as well at fullback.
I'd have thought he'd be a good shout for that. I also think Mitchell Pearce is a hell of a player, and I think it's not unreasonable to say he could well be the best player in the league this year. But I do think, following Alan and I's almost critique of the way in which Man of Steel works, he's going to be competing with Sam. I'm amazed Sam Tompkins isn't in the list, by the way.
Tompkins wasn't even one of the favourites with the bookies this
year. Yeah, bizarre. He's going to be competing with Tompkins every week in, week out, if Catalan are playing well, for Man of Steel points, which won't help him.
Nope. We're going to move on to the Championship now. We do acknowledge the Championship season has already started. A few people were asking where the fan reviews from the weekend's games and all that were. What me and Alan have got the show next Monday. That'll give us a chance to talk a bit more about the Championship and League One as well, actually. If people want to throw in any kind of conversation topics about the Championship and League One that we can talk about next week, then do send them to us at Super League Pod on Twitter, or message us facebook.com/Super League Pod. But for now, we'll focus on our predictions for who'll win those competitions. So, Alan, you are our Championship fan. You are our Championship expert, as it were. So do you want to tell us who you think will win the Championship?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the fact that one round of games has happened, it wouldn't have changed my vote anyway, because I think what I expected to see did